Hi everybody, welcome to video 3 of Learning Target 13. So if you remember from the last video, we did talk about the standard form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c, and that's equal to 0. So if you look at number 9, we have our bx, but then our ax squared and our c are on the right side of the equation, but we want to take these pieces and move them to the left side. So to do that, I'm going to add x squared and add 5. So when we do that, we have x squared plus 6x plus 5, and that's all equal to 0. Now, because everything's equal to 0, we're ready to start factoring. So I'm going to make my two parentheses equal to 0, separate my x squared, and now we can think about, well, what multiplies to be 5 but adds or subtracts to be 6? So 5, well, 1 times 5 is 5, and that's the only factor that we have. So I know that I can put a plus 1 and plus 5, and I can do a check. I learned how to use the laser pointer here. So 1 times 5, 1 plus 5 gives me 6, and 1 times 5 gives me 5. So that all works out. So now I'm ready to split both parts up. X plus 1 equals 0, and x plus 5 equals 0, and get x by itself to solve. And I'll subtract by 5 on this side. So my two solutions are x is equal to -1 and x is equal to -5. Looking at number 10, well, what's kind of nice about this problem is it's already set to 0. So I don't have to do anything different. We can just go ahead and start factoring. So I'm going to make my parentheses, set it to 0, split up my x squared, and now let's start to think about, well, what multiplies to be -24 but adds or subtracts to be -2. So when we think about our factors of 24, well, we've got 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. So trying to think how I could make any of these become a -2. And I think where I'm going to start my focus is maybe with 4 and 6. So if you wanted to, you could go ahead and put 4 here and 6 here, but we do need to be careful about our positive and negative signs. So if you look, well, if I've got 4 plus 6, well, that's 10. That's not -2. If I have -4 plus 6, well, that gives me a +2. So let's try, how about +4 minus 6? Oh, that's -2. So if I have a +4 minus 6, +4 minus 6 gives me -2. And +4 times -6 gives me -24. So we factored, but now we're ready to set to 0 to solve and get our solutions. So x plus 4 is equal to 0, and x minus 6 equals 0. We'll go ahead and subtract 4 on each side. So x is equal to -4, and we'll add 6 to each side. So x is equal to 6. All right, we've got 2 more. I am going to keep going with 11 and 12 because they are a little bit different. With 11 and 12, notice that our a value here for our ax squared is not 1 this time. In all the other problems, that's been 1. Well, now we actually have a different number here that isn't. So there's a little bit of a different process. When a is not equal to 1, there's sometimes different ways you can go about this, but I think the way we've been learning in class is if you look at a, well, that's 2. Notice that all of these terms here are divisible by 2. So we can factor out that 2 by dividing. And the 2 can go here, and we make a new set of parentheses. So 2 divided by 2 just leaves me with x squared, or 1x squared. If you have 8 divided by 2, well, that leaves us with 4x. And if you have -24 divided by 2, well, that leaves us with -12. So now we're ready to factor. I'm going to leave the 2 out front and make my 2 sets of parentheses and split up my x squared. We're going to think about, well, what multiplies to be negative 12 but adds or subtracts to be positive 4. So thinking about my factors of 12, I have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. So you want to think, okay, well, how could I get any of those become a 4 by adding or subtracting? So I think that 2 and 6 would work here if I had a, switch color, if I had a minus 2 and a positive 6. So let's test it out in the calculator. Minus 2 plus 6. Ooh, that's 4. Perfect. So I'm ready to split up what's in my parentheses by making x minus 2, setting that to 0, and x plus 6, setting that to 0. We will get x by itself. So x is equal to 2. X 6, and x is equal to negative 6. All right, if you would like to, for number 12, if you're feeling really ambitious, you could pause the video and give it a try. This one's definitely a harder problem, but if you want to pause, see if you can do it, go for it. I think you can. I am going to complete the problem though. Remember, we've got an ax squared, a bx, and a c, but we want everything on the same side of the equation. So first I'll minus 18. So I have 3x squared plus 15x minus 18, and that's equal to 0. Now, right here, that is not equal to 1. So when a is not equal to 1, a method we've been using in class is looking at, well, okay, all of these terms here are actually divisible by 3. So I could factor out that 3. So if I divide by 3 and make a new set of parentheses, 3x squared divided by 3 is just x squared. 15x divided by 3 leaves me with 5x. And negative 18 divided by 3 is minus 6. Now we're ready to factor. So I'm going to leave my 3 out front, make my new set of parentheses, and split up my x squared. And let's think about what multiplies to be negative 6, but adds or subtracts to be negative 5. So our factors of 6 would be 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. So we have a negative 6, but a positive 5. So I think sometimes we might want to think that 2 and 3, because that adds to be 5. But remember, it needs to be a negative 6. So I think we should look at 1 and 6. Because if I have a minus 1 and a positive 6, well, minus 1 plus 6 is positive 5, and negative 1 times 6 gives me negative 6. So that works out. Now I'm ready to split them up. So x minus 1 is equal to 0, and x plus 6 is equal to 0. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 to each side, and subtract 6 to each side. And now I have my solutions. And we have completed the notes for Learning Target 13. You guys are ready to go on to the next steps. Make sure you complete your homework and your tests and all that good stuff. Let us know if you have questions. Thank you.